Here's what happened, guys. A few weeks back, I posted on my Instagram about what Renaissance success looks like because I keep sharing on the show that America's future is a small business renaissance, and we got to understand tactically for the strategies moving forward. What does that mean? And it means happier marriages, less chemicals in our food, not having to lock your doors, and then feeling safe to walk alone at night in America's greatest cities. Those are a few things for what make Renaissance success. And it's important to remember that small business owners are America's future leaders. Whether you realize it or not, you have a big voice. You are the heart of the economy. There are 36 million small businesses here in the US that employ 45% of the private workforce. And when we can unite as builders, as connectors, then amazing things can unfold in our country and for the future. And we got to remind ourselves of that because it can be easy to feel hopeless with all the mess that is out there. And so then what you do is you focus on your own small world, wanting to improve your own empire. But the problem is if you are not also making sure that the society that your vision is in, the country where your business is located in, is stable and functioning and able to allow you to continue to thrive, well, then your vision doesn't matter because then it just becomes chaos. And there's a lot of chaos that is out there. And then now going and entering into a war with Iran and looking at the increase in oil prices and what the effect that has on energy globally. And I've shared here too on the show that the way you have less poor people, one of the ways, is that you make energy cheaper. And so if that continues to increase, what impact does that have on our overall economy? Because that's going to get pushed to the customer for that cost. And it's important to prepare for that, especially going into next quarter for your strategies. But we have to come back as a country to small business first, instead of being the last kid that's picked for the game. Making small business the priority, because small businesses are the heart of our economy. You notice that when you go visit cities or towns, you can be looking as a fellow small business owner, looking for other small businesses to support and connect with and learn about their stories. So in this current mess that has been built over the past few decades, which includes the U.S. national debt over $38 trillion, Gen Z being the most indebted generation for their age group in the history of the U.S., the opioid crisis, obesity crisis, there's a lot of mess to be cleaned up. And what I want to continue to help you as a small business owner is to connect the puzzle pieces together for the bigger puzzle. It's not something that you have to focus on in all the other industries because there's over 1,000 industries here in the U.S. But it's understanding the importance of the important reminder that there are certain things that are interconnected. And I think about that with the economy to then theology and faith, the faith that we have to have not only for the business to continue to thrive, but faith in ourselves and faith for me, I've shared it before here in the show of coming back to Christianity and my faith in God and knowing that Christ is King and coming back to that and continuing to have to be reminded of that daily. And then from there, culture and politics. Culture, understanding what is going on in the general public for trends and what is happening and for the national conversations, one of which is privacy that we've talked about before here on the show, relating back to security cameras and AI and how it's becoming such a bigger national conversation. And it's always been, but it's getting louder and louder. And then politics, going back to the decision to go to war with Iran and noticing where certain things don't make sense for why we're getting into this war. How does this then support Americans and support small businesses? So it's important when something doesn't make any sense, get curious and ask questions. But those four areas, they are interconnected, and we have to continue to be reminded of that daily. But again, for my job, I want to help you to take time to connect those puzzle pieces. And so in this ownership series, we got to continue to come back to the importance of taking ownership for our future, for America's future, realizing it's not just your empire to focus on, but it's making sure if you want to think about empire, I'm not like connected to that word, but like your business is within something, and it's within this country, it's within the society, and you cannot forget that. And you have to take the time to look around and notice what else is going on. And that can actually help you to become a better decision maker. And then if you take the time not only to understand what's going on nationally around the country, as well as within your industry, but then when you can understand every single aspect of your business, at worst, you're a better decision maker. At best, you are unstoppable. And so what keeps coming up for me is revisiting and welcome back to the show. It's start of the week. I'm getting into it already. I wanted today to be to set it up for the week, because I want to continue to talk about ownership, talk about privacy, to relating back to this national conversation about privacy and how, as a small business owner, you can start to differentiate in the marketplace. And one way would be the conversation that you could have with your team about security cameras. And thinking back to last week, I walked around 3 buildings and I could count over 30 cameras on 3 buildings. And for me, I felt uneasy, and I'm a business owner. And so imagining that conversation that people are having about privacy and how they want to keep that, if you are able to start to advertise that you are not recording your customers or clients that are coming into the store or sitting down and eating their food at your restaurant, then that can be, I think about that for the future. That can be a very powerful way to create distinction in the marketplace. And so I want to continue to talk about that this week, but I thought this brings us back to the Declaration of Independence. And I want to share that with you here. So let me get that up. All right, here we go. So I highlighted this section here of the Declaration of Independence. And when was the last time you read this? It's important to understand these documents that shaped our country. And this part right here, I want to highlight. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The liberty part is the one I want to highlight. You got into this as a small business owner. There could be a specific reason. There could be different specific reasons for why you got in compared to another business owner. But overall, the theme that I've noticed in the conversation I've had with small business owners, and me being also a small business owner, is liberty, the freedom to shape your future, the freedom to want to improve your quality of life for your family, for your community. And also you may care about this country as others do, and for your country too. Because for me, in my beliefs, it's faith, family, country. And that freedom is something over the last few decades, thinking back to surveillance, now getting into AI, it's been eroded for that liberty and that freedom. And what's something that we have to continue to be reminded of is our individual rights here in this country, like our freedom of speech. And we as small business owners also have to push back in this way for any erosion in this area. And actually, for moving forward into America's future, start to really get loud in these different areas. And it doesn't mean that we can't still build. It doesn't mean we still can't innovate. And it certainly doesn't mean that we're going to put things back in the box. Like AI is here. Security cameras are here. But when we pay attention and we actually have ways in which we can hold accountable, if it is our public officials, or if it is bigger corporations, or our communities overall, when we have ways to hold these accountable, then it's a lot harder for bad things to happen. Because when we can put light onto what is going on, that's where then the filth, the disgusting things can stop. Because we're actually paying attention. And as builders and as connectors, we play a very pivotal role in that you may not even realize. Small businesses are regarded with a high level of respect overall compared to corporations, big corporations. And within the economy, going back to there are 36 million small businesses that are here in the U.S. that employ 45% of the private workforce. That is a big impact in our overall economy. And so when we have economic disorder, that can lead to political radicalism. And that was something I learned from Charlie Kirk. Hearing that for the first time, it goes back to, well, the way we can lower the incentive for if it is shoplifting or other crimes that can affect us as business owners for our business, is that if we can create economic prosperity, the chances of those crimes happening, can decrease dramatically. And so we got to continue to figure out, how do we continue to thrive as small businesses, so the quality of life of our communities continues to improve. And that is a challenge that we have ahead of us. And one way we do that is ownership, taking ownership of it. That's step one, is attention, ownership. And then from there, we got to go into moving forward and figuring out where there are unnecessary regulations, unnecessary taxes. Talked about that before here in the show. Where are there ways to differentiate in the marketplace, like removing security cameras that are unnecessary, and especially if you're not in an industry that requires it due to regulations. I'm thinking about banking as an example. But where can you then advertise that you're not recording your customers? As I think about restaurants is a great place to say, we're not recording you as you eat your food. Just saying that will then get Americans to look around and realize, wait, or in tourists to look around and be like, wait, are there other restaurants that are recording me? And then by educating those that are coming in and your clients, your customers, they're going to appreciate that even more. They may not like it in the moment. They might be like pissed off and be like, why did you have to tell me this? But overall, they can appreciate then you taking the time to be transparent. Transparency in this next decade is going to be very valuable for small business owners. And you already notice it within your group of friends to community. You could be noticing this as a major conversation. The human first approach, rather than I think about that in a world of AI, instead of that approach, we're focusing on a human first approach. Doesn't mean we're still not using AI in some way, but when we continue to understand what is the priority, that can help us to avoid major distractions, major ways of creating more, or ways to create more. We avoid creating more messes, and we actually can look towards cleaning up the messes that we have. So as this week continues on, we're going to get back into security cameras, talking about that, getting into the history. And I want to leave you with this, actually. This came up. This was a story that... this was a press release from the Federal Trade Commission talking about a situation that happened where a Ring employee, which is the home security, a security company that has home security systems. There's, let me just get this up so you can see it, so I can read it to you. So as here for the release, FTC says Ring employees illegally surveilled. I was like, well, surveilled customers failed to stop hackers from taking control of users' cameras. That is terrifying to think about. Going back to how sophisticated technology is becoming, we gotta learn as to where do things not make sense anymore for safety. Like where has the narrative of pushing for safety and security have gone too far, and now we have to move back towards liberty, and that pendulum swing is how you can think about it. Because if now hackers can get in and look at our home security systems, or in that press release, it all talks about an employee that for months was looking at camera feeds in intimate locations like bedrooms. That is something we have to have more conversations about. Does this make sense for industries too? What industries do we need to focus on transforming into either completely getting rid of that industry or moving in a new or different direction? And I'm not opposed to that. Just because I'm small business first does not mean I'm small business only, and nor am I in keep the industry as is, where it doesn't make any sense. No, let's get rid of it, and in its place there can be a new industry that can occur. And that's the importance of being able to adapt as a small business owner. So we're going to talk about more of those type of stories, or more stories about specifically relating to security cameras. Also more about privacy overall. And ownership is going to be really important now, of taking ownership of our future. And as small business owners, we can no longer just be isolated of focusing in on our own business and our own small world. We can't be anymore. There's a lot of chaos that is out there, and we have to continue to focus on bringing stability and structure into our industries across over 1,000 industries, and from there bringing that into our country. And you are America's future leaders. If you want to connect with other small business owners in person that care about this country too, you can join us in Charleston, South Carolina on January 14th and 15th, 2027 for A Future Fest. Here's a link right below for where you can reserve your spot. Really excited to be able to connect with you there, and for you to be able to connect with over 300 other small business owners from across the country and across industries who care about this country. So I'm excited to see you guys there, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow.